Thanks also to our visitors who are here from far and wide. And I want to say a very happy festival to all of our people here in the Virgin Islands. We want to thank God for another year that He has given us to celebrate our freedom from slavery. And those of you who know me, you would attest to the fact that I consider this day a very important day in our history. I sometimes try to tell people that when I speak here at the Sunday morning on Emancipation Day, I'm representing the citizen of the Virgin Islands, Mark Vanterpool. Not necessarily the minister, not necessarily the representative of the people, but I'm representing some views that Mark Vanterpool, a citizen of the Virgin Islands, very strongly hold to. I was speaking to Mr. Richard De Castro, I believe, on Friday, Richard Courtney De Castro, who recently suggested to me that the first day of August every year should be declared a public holiday throughout the Commonwealth Caribbean countries in respect of the importance of the declaration of Emancipation Day throughout these islands. And I support his suggestion. Rather than waiting till the days when we have our fun and revel and a parade, the first day of August should be a holiday here as we remember our Declaration of Emancipation. You'll also remember that last year I spoke passionately about the need of the people of the Virgin Islands to begin the conversation about self-determination. Note that I use the terminology self-determination and not the terminology necessarily of independence, which somehow seems to have a stigma attached to it. In the context of our Virgin Islands, that is. In any case, by international standards, countries are no longer considered independent, and all countries depend on each other on several fronts to work in harmony for the good of their citizens and humanity as a whole. The Virgin Islands should be no different. The self-determination that I refer to would be our Virgin Islanders' right as the Virgin Islands people to decide on our own political status without outside influence and freely chart the course of our economic, cultural, and social development over the next 25 years and long into the future, spanning many generations to come. I am happy to see and happy to hear that the conversation that I spoke of last year has indeed begun. The conversation about self-determination has begun, whether you are in favor of it or whether you are against it. What I wanted has happened, that the conversation has indeed begun. On the local front, we can thank our Minister of Education and Culture, the Honorable Marion D. Walwyn, and this government for leading the charge for the Virgin Islands to adopt a territorial song that is now played at every official function. Give them a round of applause for that. Young people, older people know every word by now and sing it beautifully as though it was part of our own blood and our own DNA. In addition to the raising of a Virgin Islands flag, the raising of a Virgin Islands flag at our schools and hopefully soon at all of our official buildings instills respect and pride in every Virgin Islander, from the tiny tots to our senior citizens throughout the islands. We also now have our own territorial dress that we are so proud of. However, I am a little disappointed about the tone of the conversation that we have begun. The tone of the conversation on the other side of the Atlantic is a little disappointing right now if you listen to that tone closely. Our Premier has reassured Her Majesty's government and indeed the whole world that this jurisdiction is interested only in a financial services business that is legal and one that is transparent. But unfortunately, the United Kingdom government seems relentless in shifting the goalposts in this sector in keeping with the international demands that they're dealing with. Indeed, our BVI financial services industry has flourished over the years to become the main pillar of our economy, and it is no wonder that we are a model in the global economy in this area. With the UK government apparently now bowing to international demands, we are in the Virgin Islands becoming remaining powerless to determine our own future in the best interest of the people of the Virgin Islands. So the question is, in this conversation that we have begun, will we allow ourselves to be plummeted back to the days in the 1800s when our colonial masters made decisions in their best interest without consideration for our welfare? That is the question. Will the UK government subsidize us if we lose our financial services industry business? Will they tell us what measures we need to put in place to make up for the shortfall when they take away the nearly $200 million revenue from our financial services business? I dare say to you, to my people, we will be left to fend for ourselves as we were left to fend for ourselves after the declaration of the emancipation of slavery in 1834. So this is a form of slavery and colonialism that still exists today, and against which I want you to start speaking about, and against which I speak. This is why I really get passionate and enthusiastic around this time as we celebrate a form of freedom from which, ironically, we are not really free, as we still have to adhere and listen to our colonial masters in their best interests, not in the interest of the people of these Virgin Islands. Since the abolition of slavery in 1834, we as a people have been able to move forward to this point with an annual budget of $300 million raised right here in our own Virgin Islands by our own selves. No longer are our people treated as property. No longer are we bought and sold and forced to work under inhumane conditions. This may be freedom in the physical sense for the past 175 years, but are we really emancipated from depending on the United Kingdom government's decisions for our lives and for our welfare and for our children's welfare? Indeed, for our own freedom. As an educated Virgin Islands people, it is high time, I say, for us to be making our own decisions in the best interest of our own people here in the Virgin Islands. We can claim freedom, not only from slavery in the physical sense, but economic and religious freedom as well. This is what we should be celebrating. I do believe that we have learned numerous lessons from the experiences of our forefathers, and we must not allow anything to take us back to the way of living in those days and that mentality even in a different form. With the looming threat on our financial services, we are now called to be smarter in terms of how we use the funds that we earn. We must spend it wisely from being one of the world's most successful financial services jurisdictions. Financial services bring in the bulk of our revenue annually, and those fees are used to fund the operation of our territory and send our children to school. Along with the investments made in our tourism product, we must ensure that the Virgin Islands benefit in the form of jobs and entrepreneurial opportunities here in the Virgin Islands. And that is why this government will continue to encourage that type of investment in our economy that will benefit all of us as a people. This leads us back to the conversation that we started speaking about self-determination. We have been emancipated from this form of slavery, of total dependence on our colonial masters, and there is no way that we can go back into those chains of the past. It is in this vein that I continue to insist that self-determination here in the Virgin Islands is inevitable. It must happen one day. For however long it may take, we need to begin the path to self-determination in the Virgin Islands and begin that path to it now. I submit that there is a certain pride in being able to determine your own destiny. And as Virgin Islanders, we are a proud people. During this and the future Emancipation Celebrations, I would like to see us devote more attention to the reason for the celebration of emancipation. This should not be just about festival and 3 consecutive holidays, but more about highlighting and celebrating the accomplishments of all Virgin Islands as a people. The struggles of our forefathers must not be forgotten in the midst of this revelry that we revel on a regular basis. I am so glad that a conversation has begun as to how we can better ourselves personally and begin to rule our own destiny, because this is indeed the spirit of emancipation. Let us continue as a people this conversation on the highways and the byways, in our schools and in our colleges, in the media and in our homes, but let the conversation continue. As a citizen of this country, I make a call for another round of constitutional talks urgently, aimed at bringing us closer to self-determination here in the Virgin Islands. My people, let us not be afraid, but let us continue this all-important conversation. On this day, I want to say thank you, and may we all continue to have a safe and enjoyable Emancipation Celebration 2013, and God bless these beautiful Virgin Islands. Thank you.
All right. We're getting there to hear from the man of God. I want to introduce him. You have a copy of the program, and you have a copy of his biography. So I will not bore you.